Hi everyone, welcome to your week 3 video. In last week's video, I discussed learning objectives, both terminal and enabling, which is where we're going to pick up this week. Remember that learning objectives are statements that indicate what the learner will be able to do as a result of the learning experience. It's important to write a well-written and clearly defined objective because they guide the instructional activities and assessments that you'll eventually design. The two types of learning objectives that we discussed last week were terminal objectives and enabling objectives. The terminal objectives, which are also called instructional goals, are your top dog objectives. They state in measurable terms the overall learning outcomes that learners should be able to achieve. So once you have this terminal objective or instructional goal, it's time to figure out how to get your learners to achieve that goal, which is where your enabling objectives come in. So remember that these enabling objectives are objectives that support the terminal objective by breaking it down into smaller and more manageable objectives. They address one aspect of the terminal objective and they explain the expectations of the learner's performance. So we're going to go back to our course example to discuss how we go from steps to abbreviated enabling objectives to the full-length enabling objectives. So as you remember, our terminal objective is that by the end of this course, learners will be able to design a course of instruction to address an instructional problem in a specific context. The steps associated with that are conducting a needs analysis, creating a course map, designing objectives, designing methods, developing materials, and developing an evaluation plan. So next we transfer these steps to the course map and they become abbreviated enabling objectives, which are the ones that are here in yellow. So once you have these abbreviated enabling objectives, it's time to write a full-length enabling objective, and here are our 6. So the learner will be able to analyze instructional problems, the learner will be able to map course content, the learner will be able to establish learning outcomes, the learner will be able to develop course design, the learner will be able to develop course materials. The learner will be able to develop an evaluation plan. So one thing to note about writing learning objectives in general, whether they're terminal or enabling, is that they are highly dependent on choosing a good verb that indicates exactly what the learner should be able to do. There's a section in job aid number 3, which is called objectives, that provides page numbers of action verbs in the MRK textbook, as well as some verbs that are associated with cognitive levels that you wish to see learner mastery in. So these verbs will be helpful as you write your full-length enabling objectives for IDA number 3. Job aid number 3 is located in both the week 2 and week 3 content folder, so you can just go to this week's content folder to look for it. So to the next part, alignment. This is one of the most important aspects of designing instruction. It's all about the alignment of your objectives, exemplars, activities or practice, and assessments. If these aspects aren't aligned, it's very possible that your learners may not meet your expected outcome. So let's just pretend you have an objective. We're going to use this example right here, but you have an objective is that learners are going to be able to explain the major causes of the Boston Tea Party and the effects they had on colonial life. This is actually something that I used to do with my middle schoolers. So let's talk about some possible activities here, right? So you might have some practice or activities that consist of whole group discussions, maybe a little role play, and maybe even an inquiry activity about colonial life. So do you think that a multiple choice test on the Boston Tea Party would be an appropriate assessment? We'll go back. Knowing that these are the practice and activities that students engaged in when they were learning about the causes of the Boston Tea Party and the effects that they had on colonial life, would a multiple choice test likely be an appropriate assessment? Probably not. Where's the alignment there? How does a multiple choice test really allow for learners to explain the major cause of the Boston Tea Party and the effects that they had on colonial life? What do you think might be more appropriate? An essay? A debate? A presentation? Any of these could be, as long as they allow students to show mastery over the objective, which is to be able to explain the major causes of the Boston Tea Party and the effects that they had on colonial life. So now that we kind of have an idea of what alignment really is, you're going to get to practice it. So one of your required readings this week is from Florence Martin, and it's called Instructional Design and the Importance of Instructional Alignment. And you're going to see a few different versions of this table. I actually adapted this table from Martin for you in job aid number 4, which is called Align. And I adapted it so you could use it as a guide for yourself when you start to write your enabling objectives, assessments, and practice or activities, which is what's in IDA number 3. So not everything that's in this table here is in IDA number 3. However, some of these other aspects that are not in IDA number 3 will be a part of IDA number 4 and the fully developed activity that you design. So you can be thinking about these for what you're doing for IDA number 3, but just make sure to check the assignment instructions for full details on what you're supposed to do for each of the different IDAs. You're only doing IDA number 3 this week. Additionally, as you work on both IDA number 3 and 4, you'll probably want to take out your course map, the one that you designed in IDA number 2. You might decide that you even want to revise it a bit, and that's perfectly fine. You can feel free to do so. So for IDA number 3, you should write the following for each of your enabling objectives. So that means if you have 5 enabling objectives, you will do this process 5 different times. All right, so you're going to have a well-written enabling objective, an aligned assessment, and a brief description of the practice or activities that students would complete to achieve that objective. So the practice or activity could match, should match both the enabling objective and assessment. So you should have a well-written objective, an assessment, and then the activities that students will complete in order to, show mastery over that objective. Okay, so here's your checklist for week 3. Please read the MRK textbook chapters 9 and 12. You're going to review job aid number 3, objectives, for the second time, and job aid number 4, align. Both of them are located in the week 3 content folder. You're also going to read Martin's 2011 Instructional Design and the Importance of Instructional Alignment, which is located in the week 3 supplemental readings folder. Finally, you're going to choose one of the 4 cases that are listed here to read. Those are in the supplemental readings folder. You can do more than one if you really want to, but you're only required to do one. And then your activities for this week are the initial manic discussion post, which is due on Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. Your response is due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. And IDA number 3 is due on Sunday by 11:59 p.m. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. Thanks and have a great day.